I'm Jabuki Young White, and I play Ethan Clade in Disney's Strange World.
Hey!
The filmmakers wanted this story to take place inside the body of a turtle. In order to keep the secret until the very end, they imaginatively altered the look of the world that you saw, all the way from the lungs to the T-cells. However, while they made the world their own, the filmmakers always stayed true to science and biology.
The original pitch of this film was, what if you discovered that the world you're living on is an actual living thing?
I agree with that snot bubble here. What?
Because this was going to take place inside the body of a living thing. We needed to learn about the systems of the body.
We need you to figure this out, otherwise we're doomed. We are doomed!
Knowing that we weren't going to be able to reveal this environment was inside a biological system, we had to make sure that it was inspired by it so that when you go back and you watch it a second time, you're like, oh, I see where that came from.
What are these things?
That's one of the most exciting things as an artist, to be challenged to think outside the box.
At Walt Disney Animation Studios, research is imperative to tell stories the right way, and Strange World was no exception. The filmmakers and animators reached out to many different medical experts, scientists, as well as biologists to inform their creative decisions in how they designed the creatures and landscapes for the film.
The first thing we do is do our homework. We did a lot of research about how cells work, how the organs actually function.
Don was excited about grounding this as much as we could in science, and we did research for everything.
Very early on, it was always the idea of doing human beings entering a vast biological space, which is the living system of a living thing. We did a lot of research with electron microscopic imagery. What I started to see in these images were landscapes, and then these little microscopic creatures. If you imagine that on a human scale, they would be terrifying monsters, you know? And so once that goes through the filter of all the wonderful artists and animators at Disney Animation, I knew the visual potential could be like something we've never seen before.
Awesome.
Stuart Samita and Beth Riga were two scientists who came on, and the information they were providing us was so valuable.
I am a PhD in biological anthropology. My research is on cellular structure.
And I have a PhD in the biological sciences, but my research expertise is in paleontology. It's not just dinosaurs, it's whole ecosystems, which is one of the reasons we came to this production. What we have going on in Strange Worlds is biology and art coming together to create this amazing ecosystem.
One of the things that we decided conceptually was, even though this world is a turtle, it is not exactly mimicking turtle anatomy and physiology.
We opened this up to all sorts of organisms, including insects and other non-vertebrate animals. And what that meant is that we had a blast coming up with all sorts of different ideas. So it allowed the writers and the artists to sort of pick and choose the combination that they wanted to create to build this composite organism.
They would just kind of feed us with, oh, you should look at this, or here's an animal that does this. We got very excited by the potential of what this could be.
Have you ever wondered if a strange world lives inside of you? Now imagine the landscape within your lungs. What about the stomach? For Strange World, a lot of talented people designed and developed the environments and reimagined the many different parts and inner workings of the turtle's body.
Well, the turtle concept, that was something that Don hit upon early on in our research. The turtle in many cultures is a common concept for the world. The actual entrance into the world is one of my favorite moments.
One of the things we discussed very early is insects as a model for respiration. Instead of having a single trachea, why not have all these open holes through which the respiration occurs? And we can see that makes it into the film.
When the venture literally pops through some sort of membrane, and all of a sudden you're in this world that you could never have imagined.
When you breathe, you're basically going to take the outside air in, and it's going to hit a membrane that's wet, and oxygen will diffuse through, and it's the interface. It's how we get the air to interact with our blood.
The initial space that we kind of fall into is like the lungscape.
Those little trees that are the alveoli with the little spheres that are ventilating. And when you first encounter these, you're like, oh, weird trees. When you imagine what they are, which is a series of tubes ending in a blind, very thin sac, that is the gas exchange mechanism in our lungs.
The bronchial tubes are the things that are swelling that look like trees.
Even the trees are cool.
As a pre-med major who studied biology, it was like my two worlds coming together. When the trees are breathing, if you're a biology major, you're probably like, oh, I see what they're doing.
And then those like grass type on the land, they are cilia,
which surround those cells and look like sea anemones.
It's also a protective agent within the body. When they went deep into the organism, things are all wet and moist and squishy. Life is water-based. The fact that the weird world they're in had lots of movement, it was the hint that you're actually inside of an organism.
The burning sea.
We go through the stomach area, which is the burning sea.
A place where the cliffs are alive and the waters will dissolve the flesh off your bones.
As soon as they said acid, we were like, oh, we know exactly where we are.
The stomach has a couple different functions: grinding stuff up, squirting it with acid, and passing it on to the next station. Part of your immune system is that acid that's going to kill the pathogens.
In the stomach, we have little creatures called the poot pickles. And the poot pickles are basically little balls of gas.
When you are going through the stomach, I was going through research and acidic lakes. They all have this phosphoric green and yellows.
We're all seeing the same thing, yep.
But we kept it neon green, so it's different with the farm.
I really love the liver because using the shapes that we found in our research, we created these canyons that have a bottom and a top.
And the liver's job is to be I like to explain it to my students like a food court, where you're funneled in, you drop off and pick up what you get, and then you funnel yourself back out.
Visually, that's a stunning place for the venture to fly through, rooted in science.
Dendritic cells, macrophage, killer T cells, all microbiology that creatures and characters are based upon in this movie. Check it out.
There were immune system cells that had different functions that we felt could help our story.
Those cells are basically after anything in a body that is not supposed to be there. And certainly our characters aren't supposed to be there.
The macrophages are, the grunts, the marines. They're the first line of defense.
A macrophage is a kind of white blood cell and is there specifically as part of the immune system to engulf pathogens that come in. Macro meaning big, phage meaning to eat. They're big eating blobs.
They keep part of a disease or an antigen on their self. And so animators, they did some great 2D tests, like hand-drawn tests to explore this. It eats the propeller, spits it out, and it turns into a habit. That was a direct interpretation of the science in a creative way.
What are those things?
If the macrophages are like the Marines, the killer T's would be almost the Navy SEAL team. It's actually the first immune system cell that we see early in the film when they're just entering Strange World.
Get us out of here.
When we were looking at the different cells, you have different cells that destroy antigens by either consuming it, which were the macrophages, or killer T's that pulverize it. And so when we were looking at creating the killer T to look like a pterodactyl, we were creating something that had a beak that was allowed to just stab at something. That moment when Searcher, Ethan, and Splat are riding on the back of one of those killer T's, it delighted both Don and I to no end. Pterodactyls are a big element to pulp stories. And this is my favorite dinosaur. This is the promise of those pulpy moments in the movie.
I can't outrun him!
Let's talk about my co-star Splat.
The dendritic cell. They're like the scouts. Once an antigen, like a foreign object, comes into the body, these little dendritics come and they kind of touch it and feel their way around it and try and suss out friend from foe.
And that's where Splat became a creature.
Splat's job is to defend the organism.
When Splat takes Searcher's handkerchief, and runs up to the Reaper and is like, hey, here's this thing. It's as directly as we can translating science into characters.
They're called dendritic because they have those little finger-like projections, those dendrites.
That is so weird.
So the little spiky bits is what characterizes the dendrite.
They really hit the nail on the head when they showed just how flexible those things are.
They can slide through spaces. They can make themselves real skinny and push through. That's exactly what we see with Splat.
That character is just kind of a perfect marriage of biological accuracy with Disney fun.
I really liked the bloodstream. It was this flying stream of creatures, and it felt so fantastic, and just is a really cool element to have and play within our environment.
If you look carefully at the bloodstream, you'll see that they're often leaving the bloodstream to go and collect oxygen. They even change color. The blue blood cells are deoxygenated. They leave the stream, they go and collect oxygen, they turn red.
We didn't limit ourselves to the kind of blood vessels you see in vertebrates, where we have what's called an enclosed circulatory system, something in tubes. And insects have what's called an open circulatory system, where the fluid just sort of sloshes around. So we had sort of the best of both worlds.
And these things? Funny little goobers, aren't they?
I didn't know exactly what a stem cell was. I knew that they were important.
Every time I blaze a trail, they unblaze it.
They are caretakers.
And it was really fun to see the artist just run with this.
Oh, here you go, little guy.
The heart, even though it's damaged, can be regenerated.
As we were experimenting, we wanted it to not literally be a heart, but to have enough there that we recognize in hindsight the properties of a heart.
And there's a beautiful scene at the end where all the cells that actually repair everything, they basically come back, repair the heart, and everything starts to flourish. It's the savior in a certain.
The heart is really a colonial organism, with each of its cells having those inherent probabilities. When you put them into communication and then give them a leader, they will beat in unison.
Just like the clade family depends upon the health of the turtle they live on, we too depend upon the health of our planet. The strange world we live on is our home. It is fragile, beautiful, and alive. And like the clades, we all can be heroes by protecting, preserving, and keeping our home, planet Earth, healthy.
The best legacy we can leave is making a present worth opening tomorrow.
You know, I think the best things about making a Disney movie are the films that allow us to talk to our kids after the movie's done.
What you're trying to tell is a story about a world that we need to protect.
It's more than an animated film. It really is talking about things that are quite central to our existence as organisms.
If we knew that what we lived on was literally living, how consciously could we interact with it to make sure that we have this living thing keep on living for our kids, our grandkids, and generations to come?
It tells a story about 3 generations. Each generation is looking for its own path. Yeager wanting to be the conqueror, Searcher wanting to be the controller, and Ethan wanting to be the conservationist. It's really reflective of the last 70 years of human thinking.
We have never had more information to understand how do we deal with the changing climate and our own contribution to a changing climate.
As a parent, we're leaving a world to our children that we have damaged. People like Ethan are gonna be the solution.
I hope you enjoyed this in-depth look at the science of Strange World and maybe learned something about your own body in the process. Bye for now, or as Splat would say...